lined up the top stars from Hollywood and from all over the world to entertain you on a giant screen with the few colorful motion pictures you've been hearing about and reading
It's
about.
showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
We're delighted to have you with us. They're driving theater.
You'll find something to please you to add to your evening's enjoyment.
Is pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on? It's 8 o'clock. It's Monday night. It is, what is today? September 19th, 2022. You are tuned into the Drive-In Speaker Box. I'm your host, Bo, the boom operator.
I am Slick Doggy the Grip.
And welcome to the show, Drive-In Speaker Box. If you're new to the show, we're going to be talking about movies. It's what we do. We're going to be talking about a lot of movies today, a lot of stuff. So the news segment of the show is going to be cut a little short just because we have a lot of ground to cover this week. But thanks for tuning in. If you're downloading this wherever you download your podcasts, remember you can join in live on the chat. We do record this live every Monday night, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, and you can check it out on your Facebook, your Twitch, or your YouTube Live. Just follow whatever one of those you want to and get into this chat. Look, it's right here. We've been talking it up before we started the show. Shout outs to James over on Facebook, Sam over on Facebook, Vince over on Twitch, and everybody on the Discord. We've been chatting all week, sharing news about Constantine, sharing just all kinds of fun stuff. So you jump in on the Discord there and be a part of it. What's up, Jake? How you been, man?
Okay, I guess. How have you been?
I don't think people realize, like, despite being, tight homies, life gets in the way. We only really hang out at the show and then occasional movies that we see. It's just been a busy year. So this is our hanging sesh.
That's true. We're both really busy dudes.
We are busy dudes. I mean, cheers to being dudes.
Dudes.
Just being dudes. You're a dude. We're a dude. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a dude. He's a dude. She's a dude. We're all dudes. Hey.
Yeah, shout out to a lot of people over on YouTube tuning in. McLean over there, Tony over there, and Al from Hardy Entertainment, all tuning in on YouTube. Shout outs to the gang. Thanks for joining us so early on in the show. We love getting the convo started early. You guys are the kindling that makes the fire of the drive-in speaker box glow so bright. But yeah, I saw a lot of movies in theater this week because as we talked about last week, a lot of movies came out. Like the past couple of weekends have been pretty light, and then there was a whole lot of kind of, I wouldn't call them indie films, but sort of medium budget, expanded release films that all just kind of got piled into this weekend. And I went and saw See How They Run. I went and saw God's Country, and I also managed to catch Confess Fletch. So all of these things. I mean, I didn't get a chance to see Pearl. I wanted to see that. I didn't get a chance to see. There was just so many movies I didn't get a chance to see. I didn't get to see Woman King. Just didn't have enough time. But and you checked out a new Netflix series.
Yeah, like you said, life gets in the way sometimes. So I made it a point to, anytime I had available time, watch some of the streaming stuff that has come out. I finished the season of Cobra Kai.
And?
Yeah.
So can we just go ahead and take a moment to, now that you finished it?
Well, there's movie news related to Cobra Kai.
Well, let's get into that then.
Well, okay. All right. So, yeah, that, and I watched Cyberpunk 2077 Edge Runners. Okay, Cobra Kai. Let's do it. Also, hold on. Before we do, Sam mentioned Adam West's birthday. RIP Adam West. It is his birthday today on the 19th. So, Cobra Kai.
What a season. What a season.
It's so good. Everything about it is so good.
And you don't even have to be a big fan of the original content. That was my biggest fear when the first season came out. It's like it's just going to be a pander fest. But I mean, they're in season 5, and they're still. I mean, they got an Emmy last year. They are just doing really good stuff, and somehow in a 5th season made it good.
Well, and they're still finding new ways to bring in characters from the past and make it seem natural, like it's supposed to be.
Last week, how cool was Chosen?
Chosen carries this season, no doubt. Chosen's my favorite outside of Johnny, because Johnny is the best, right? Like there's no topping Johnny, because he is the Karate Kid. If you watch how I Met Your Mother portrays it, which turned into the meme, which then turned into
into the
Cobra
show.
Kai.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing about it is, hot on the heels of the release of this new season of Cobra Kai, Sony announced that they will be releasing a new Karate Kid movie. And that new movie will be a continuation of the original series of the Karate Kid, which is exactly what Cobra Kai happens to be.
So why do we need a movie?
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. Every actor from all of those movies that you would recognize or matter has already been brought into Cobra Kai. And there's no way that they're going to make the leap over to this movie that is not Cobra Kai related. The series co-creator and showrunner for Cobra Kai tweeted out, and he was like, "Hey, this is not any kind of anything to do with Cobra Kai. We don't know anything about it." So there's that.
Sounds like a cash grab.
Now, the whole thing with Cobra Kai, it started out as a YouTube Red thing when YouTube...
Remember that?
Yeah, I do, because I had it. But it was YouTube Red. We talked about it on the show back when I had YouTube Red. I offered it to you so you could watch Cobra Kai. It started that way, and the whole thing was Machio did interviews, and he said, "We've been trying for years and years and years to do a Karate Kid sequel, continuation, something like that, but they never liked the ideas that were given to them or the scripts." And when someone finally came to him with the scripts and they're like, "Hey, William Zabka, Johnny Lawrence,
let's do the thing.
Let's do Cobra Kai the way that it is. Daniel's going to be a butthole." But,
as we all prophesized.
Yeah, and they were like, "You know what? We like the story that you've laid out. We like where it's going. We'll do it." And that started Cobra Kai, and then it came in, and now it's on Netflix, and it's in its 5th season, and everything about it's amazing.
In this past season, really taking Karate Kid 3, which a lot of people, were like, it's the weakest one, blah, 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 but then turning it into one of the strongest parts of the series.
Man,
and you're like, whoa!
Everything they did with Terry Silver, and they brought in the other dude that was in...
the bad boy of
3.
karate.
Yeah. Like, they made it work. Everything with Terry Silver has been amazing.
Chef's
It's been
kiss.
so good. I like everything about Cobra Kai, but the thing about Sony saying that it's a continuation of the original series... It's probably going to be next Karate Kid, and that's going to suck because the next Karate Kid sucks, except for the part where Miyagi's just like, "Get those arrows out of my face."
Yeah. I mean, well, it was Pat Morita who made that awesome.
Well, yeah,
so,
Pat Morita's a cool dude.
And he's dead. And I just don't think that this is another example of executives getting greedy and going, well, we've got Karate Kid fever again, so how do we capitalize on it? And I mean, just let the show be, let it be, and wrap it up, and then we can all put it to rest and go, man, they did it right. But we'll see. I don't think they're going to do the movie right. But we could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know. I just have a bad feeling.
The next Karate Kid was not good.
No.
And I don't need it. Hilary Swank's the one person they've left out of the whole thing because
we all know.
Yeah, she's not relative to Cobra Kai. So
Vince S. is the Jaden Smith one not in the Miyagi verse, so no crossover.
No.
So no, it's just and what's funny is they're not even doing karate in the Karate Kid.
Yeah, the whole thing of that Karate Kid was that he's like, "Yeah, I'll use karate and I'll beat these kids up," and he goes, "Hiya!" and then the other kids gung fu him in the face, and so he learns kung fu instead. And the name of Karate Kid is a joke.
It was a marketing buzzword
within the movie, But so yeah, screw that movie.
Well, anyway, Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, that's out. Tell us about the Cyberpunk show. I mean, you played the game. You're a gamer.
Getting into the review of that.
I mean, let's just jump into it. Let's knock it out. I mean, we've got 4 reviews to do. Then we'll get into news. Then we'll do a little movie.
Well,
tease.
it's kind of movie news. All right, Cyberpunk 2077, staying alive, man.
Wait, where's your Keanu? Do we have the Keanu statue?
Yeah, dude.
Where is it?
I don't know. What did you?
It's around here somewhere. I'll find it. I don't know.
I don't know.
You tell them about
somewhere
it.
somewhere I have a Johnny Silverhand, like a giant Johnny Silverhand. But the thing is, Cyberpunk 2077 released. It was not what everyone wanted. They've slowly been working at it the whole time since it's been released, and they just dropped a new update for it. A lot of that containing content from the anime produced by Project CD Red. It might not be here anymore, dude. I don't know.
I'm gonna look.
I don't know.
I don't know nothing about no Cyberpunk.
So they just released the new update. They're always making strides to improve this game, and they announced new DLC coming out. The only DLC. So you have that coming up soon. It will be for PC, Xbox Series, and PS5, not for PS4 and Xbox One. Sorry if you're still on the old gen. I don't know what's going on back here.
I'm looking for it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's here.
But the anime, which is a story about people within this world set in the same time as the game, and supposedly if you've played the game, there's characters that you'll recognize, and now in the game, if you watch the anime, there's characters you'll recognize on some things. It's about a group of mercenaries that come together, primarily following a teenager, David, whose mom is like a paramedic, and she's putting him through school so he can be a corpo. He can become one of the corporate elite and actually make money, because they're poor and they're struggling with rent all the time. But she will harvest and sell modifications from the cadavers she gets on the side to help put him through this very expensive private school. But he's very smart, but he's a troublemaker because the other kids pick on him because he's not from that end of town, yada, yada, all that. And eventually he goes and he starts installing cyber mods and becomes like a hotshot badass. And he joins this team of people. So he's like the speed freak. They have a dude who's like muscles with the gorilla arms and the cannon. They have net runners and all these people within their group, and they are the edge runners or whatever, and that's his, like, one of the brain dances that he's really into is called the edge runners. So that's what he calls themselves, kind of a thing. It's a pretty good series. I've watched all but one episode, like the finale so far. You get like this kid and his journey and how he didn't have a father. His mother died in front of him. He is bullied at school, so he changes his life. He steals, he becomes modified, and he gets entangled in this like world of crime, but that's where he finds his like family and his calling and the journey that he goes on from there. So like anything good anime stuff, there's some sort of emotional journey. There's a character you attach to.
In high school.
Not in high school. He's a high school dropout.
Gotcha.
So he goes.
So he's high school age though, which still tracks.
Right. And you see him kind of grow up, but it's within this world of crime. But then parts of being just a kid that wants to do the right thing will shine through, and they all get entangled in it. And cyber psychosis occurs with some characters, and the group disintegrates. They get betrayed. You have everything: heist, betrayal, love, action. It's
anime.
It's an Indian movie. It's so good. I've actually enjoyed it so far.
So would you if say one of our listeners was never played or was familiar with the world of Cyberpunk, whatever it is, would this content be something they could just jump into?
Yeah, I've only played a small amount of Cyberpunk 2077.
Because I saw it and I almost clicked it and I was like, I just don't know. I just know Keanu Reeves was in the video game, and that's my extent of my knowledge.
He's not in Silverhand's not in the anime because that's like a story specific to the character in the game, V, who gets him implanted into his or her brain or whatever.
John Mnemonic.
Yeah, and like the anime does a pretty good job of not explaining things that you don't need explained, and then telling you things that you like, give an exposition when needed. I have had to ask my girlfriend a couple of questions before, like, hey, what's the deal with this? Because she's obsessed with Cyberpunk.
Is it okay for kids? Question from...
No.
Okay.
No, lots of gore. Hey,
Night Owl, thanks for the sub.
Lots of mechanical fleshlights and... lots of gore and porn and
gore porn.
They talk about it.
Okay.
but they don't show that. But they do show the two independently, and it's very adult. But it's good. It's not bad. I've been watching it in the Japanese. I think English is an option. But really, it's very much like Akira or City Hunter or Neo Tokyo or any kind of 80s cyberpunk style Blade Runner-esque anime.
Speaking of Blade Runner, did you see the news? This is a good news transition that Amazon Prime wanting to do a series based around Blade Runner, which I think is a terrible idea because the Lord of the Rings ones is going so well. And did you read any of that? Like,
I saw it. I saw that they announced it, and the idea of Amazon taking on another large IP like that's beloved by so many people, and what they'll choose to do with it. I think we talked about this in our Discord, where it was asked, does Amazon really think that they can profit from this or have it be a success? And one of our members there was like, what's it matter? They're Amazon. They're just throwing money at it. It doesn't matter if they lose money.
But like Roy said in Blade Runner, all of these reboots and sequels will be lost in time, like tears in the rain.
Yeah, here we are shit talking Amazon on Twitch.
Yeah. I mean, hey, whatever. Speaking of Amazon and speaking of shitting on them, but don't forget, it is September. Yeah. So those subs, you can always use your free Prime sub to sub to the Drive-In Speaker Box on Twitch. We're really into subs. Out of context, that sounds very weird. But yes. Anyway, Tears in the Rain. That's Google it. It's a quote.
We'll see. Man, the last Blade Runner movie was so good and such a good continuation of that series, and I know that they did a Blade Runner anime, and
they did a pretty competent computer game, like an adventure, a computer adventure game.
I never watched the anime, so I don't know how that is. So,
but we will see. I don't know. We'll keep you posted on that. But other news. I mean, we still got a little bit of time for news. What you got down there?
Yeah, man. Another sequel, Constantine. You mentioned
we were talking about
at the top of the show. It was announced just the other day that Constantine 2 will be a thing with Keanu. So there you go. People are getting what they want, even though they didn't want it the first time around. So we'll see how that goes. There's going to be probably a loud minority and a silent majority, and a lot of people probably aren't going to watch it. It's going to flop, and it's going to be sad, but those of us that are going to be into it will probably be very thankful that we have it.
Yeah. Well, for me, Constantine, I've been a fan of the character he's one of the coolest DC characters in my opinion. Don't make that face. He's cool. He's you've heard me talk about him. He's a rowdy British warlock that, just chain smokes and drinks and, just gets into trouble and is one of the most powerful magic users on Earth, and kind of hates it. But Keanu Reeves' performance of that, he kind of made it his own, and the movie wasn't bad. It was like, okay, yeah, it's definitely not the comic Constantine, but it's Keanu Reeves, man, and what's not to like? So yeah, I'm excited as a sequel happening. I hope they get Peter Stormare back. Get some of those. I would love to see Peter Stormare back as the devil. But anyway, Tyler says he really liked the Keanu depiction on film. Thought they did interesting stuff, and yeah, it's one of those things as because Tyler just said in the YouTube comments earlier that he's loving Lord of the Rings, and he, we've had this conversation before, and there are elements of it's tricky waters when you deviate from source material really hard. Like you can either go one way and not really feel like you care about the character at all. Like what was it? We talked about this where it was the Halo show where they're just like, hey, you know what? Everybody likes Halo. Screw it. We're going to do what we want to with it. And maybe attract a new audience. And my whole deal with the idea of attracting a new audience is why are we changing the source material to do it? Because like some of this material has attracted audiences for decades that are of different, age groups and demographics, and it's like, okay, it continues to attract audiences. It's just how do we present this content to them? You don't have to tailor make everybody's experience and go, well, let's take this content and try and retrofit it to.
Imagine if people did that for stories throughout history. They're like, you know what? This whole Iliad nonsense was cool 10 years ago, but how do we attract a new audience? And they're like, oh, yeah. No one would even know about it anymore. Like you take stories like that and you're like, well, how do we attract the new audience? No one would care. It'd be erased into history and no one would care about it anymore. You got to just let things be the way they are, and that's why
or
people
make something
like them.
new inspired by it. And that's kind of
Lord of the Rings has been very popular since the 30s when The Hobbit came out.
Mm-hmm.
Why dick with it?
Well, and it's funny because two of the movies I'm going to talk about tonight are definitely taking from the source material, reinventing it in a new way for a new audience, and that's God's Country and See How They Run. God's Country is based off of a short story, and See How They Run is based off of an Agatha Christie play called Mousetrap. And, these are not direct remakes. They are reinterpretations and adaptations of the source material. And when you adapt the source material, I think you are welcome to kind of play with it, and take liberties. But if you're like, we're doing Lord of the Rings, except for there's no lords and there's no rings, and you're like, well, why are you calling it that?
Announce that you have a complete disregard for the source material.
And Fletch, we're going to talk. That's again.
Hardy Entertainment points out, it's a note for him, but love the 3 original movies. Yeah, I mean that's kind of, I think, what the entire fan base probably feels like. Knight Owlish points out Jane Austen novels, one of those things, trying to reach new audience. You know what was good? The newest version of Emma. That was pretty good because it seems like it probably didn't deviate too much from how those kinds of books were. But things like that in Shakespeare and everything where they try and change it, like Shakespeare in Love or whatever the DiCaprio Shakespeare was, where it was like a weird 90s whatever the hell was going on in that movie.
The 90s was going on in that movie.
Yeah, I did not care for that. But I like the old 70s Romeo and Juliet movie. You
didn't like the
no.
the Baz Luhrmann?
No.
Okay, well.
No, that's because, dude, Mercutio's my boy, and when you make Mercutio weird and just a total creep, I'm not into it.
Wow.
I used to fight in English class over who got to read. I'm like, I'm gonna read Mercutio.
And they're like, okay.
No, man, actually, there were people that wanted to. I was in
I get to blame. What school did you go to?
Just a local high
school
school
for nerds. Because when
dude, he was the ultimate homie.
I mean,
he was such a cool dude, and he's like, no, I'm gonna fight for my boy, and I'm gonna be the ultimate sword dude, and you're just gonna have to step up. And everyone's like,
so did you guys read the play in your class, and you took parts, and in your English class?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
It was fun, man.
Yeah, we went to different schools, I guess. We never got to do anything cool like that.
Yeah, we did it 2 or 3 times, and that's how I knew. I was like, I'm going to be Mercutio because he's the cool dude.
Well, before we get into movie reviews, talking about,
we're doing the last of the news.
Last of the news, and we'll go into
this past week, it was MASH's 50th anniversary. Alan Alda and Mike Farrell, a.k.a. BJ Honeycutt, they got together and did a thing. Woody Allen decided that he's going to retract the fact that he said he was going to retire. He told the newspaper, he's like, my next movie is going to be my last movie. It's his 50th film, and he's like, I'm going to be done with it. And then a representative for him was like, he didn't say that. That's not true.
Just stop, Woody.
He's not going to retire.
Please stop.
He's filming all in Europe. His next film is going to be
he's
completely
not welcome
in
here
French because no one here likes him.
He totally pulled a Roman Polanski. He's just like, I'm going to keep making movies. I'm just do it overseas because nobody in the United States will let me in here.
Right. Yeah. The Fabelmans won the Audience Award at the Toronto Film Festival, so that's picking up some steam. Gran Turismo movie talking about Lord of the Rings. Orlando Bloom has been brought on board for Sony's Gran Turismo movie. stop making things about video games. Also, whatever happened to Twisted Metal? Where's Twisted Metal? Where did that go?
Right? Where did that go?
And the trailer for I Want to Dance with Somebody, Whitney Houston story is out there.
Lacking a lot of it. It's funny because in the trailer it goes, "The Whitney you didn't know," and it's like literally this trailer is all the things of Whitney we knew. There was no Bobby Brown. There was no like all the juicy drama bits you'd want to see in a biopic. They were just like, nope, we're just gonna have Super Bowl performances. We're gonna have like the karaoke hooks. They're gonna dance with somebody, and they just
Which if you've been a fan of the show for a long time, shout out Vince. You will probably have seen me sing that song. Yeah, I think back on the Periscope days, I performed that entire song. And then you know what? A little bit of I guess local-ish kind of personal news. One of our fans and friends, Vern Gunderson, posted earlier that he got his first on-screen television credit.
Hey, good on you, Vern.
As a grip.
Boom.
Yeah,
Nice
nice
work.
job. Shout out to him. And Tyler over here says Brahmastra was fun. Yes, go watch more foreign films. He did point out that it's loud. I talked to a local business owner who happens to be from the Indian subcontinent about Indian films and things like that earlier, and that was one of his criticisms of them. He's like, man, the music is so good, but sometimes those movies are so loud. And I was like, you're right.
It also depends on where you see it because, in automated theaters now, since the projection rooms, they don't have projectionists. They don't usually even have a tech on hand anymore. Everything is just automated from a mainframe where
if it's a theater like I watched in with 4 rows, it's just as loud as if it's a theater with like 25 rows.
And a lot of the times, they don't have someone calibrating the movies to these theaters. It just runs an automated program. And, my theaters know me now, and they're like, oh, God, Bo's coming up to the counter. What's he going to complain about? And I'm like, well, your audio, your left channel sub seems to be not firing, and I'm not getting anything out of the rear right. I think maybe that speaker's blown. And they're like, sir, we can hear the movie in the theater just fine. I'm like, no, you can't. You think you can.
There's few things worse than like a staticky speaker at the theater.
Yeah, or a channel that's not going, like you're missing.
There's a gap in the sound.
Night Alice just says, you're that guy. Yes, I'm the boom operator. I literally made a career for a while doing audio for films. Like,
hey, man,
it makes
one time I invited
heated up
everybody in our town, all of our friends, to the Princess Bride, to my detriment, because all of them ended up in the good theater and we ended up in the bad theater. And the masking was off and they wouldn't fix it.
They're like, what's
wrong? Fix it. It's pretty easy to fix it and they just wouldn't do it. And I had to walk out of the theater and I punched the hell out of that friggin' door. And apparently it echoed throughout the entire building.
I'm trying to make sense of this comment from YouTube. Mode 7 Man said Parappa the Rappa. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but it's kick, punch, it's all in the mind. Like now I'm going to be thinking about that song forever.
Yeah, but Gitaru Man is superior to Parappa the Rappa.
Hardy says sound is preset at the theater commercial area, low volume, and when the trailers come on, the sound increases. But it's all automated. But some of these indie films that are not like wide distro, usually it's a Fathom event. I find Fathom event sounds generally are not mixed well for their theaters, or Bollywood films and things that aren't a part of that like AMC package, or it's a one-off. It's not really. It's never calibrated very well. One time I went and saw Ghostbusters re-release, and I had them actually reset. I was like, "Can you just reboot the stereo?" And they did, and then it sounded better. But anyway, I'm that guy. Yes, we've got a lot of movies to cover, but we got to tell you what's coming out in theaters this week, because 2 movies are coming out in theaters this week. 2 more movies hitting the theaters. Another horror movie hitting the theater, and I wouldn't say a controversial movie, but a movie that's been in the news quite a bit. First up, the horror movie we have from director Parker Finn. We have Smile. You've probably seen the trailer.
That's gonna be
pretty creepy.
No from me, dog.
It's about after witnessing a bizarre traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality, which is just like a bunch of people with a creepy smile, and then there's like the lady, these modern horrors, it's all like one thing that looks creepy, and then there's always like a neck crack or someone's like goes, "Wah, wah, wah," and there's bone crunchings.
Yeah,
and
it does show in the trailer that one person like snaps their neck around or something like that.
Yeah, Tyler says probably a pass from me. I'm probably going to pass on it as well. Doesn't really look like my jam, but I've still got a lot of other, Pearl. I really want to see Pearl. That's probably going to be on my radar this week.
I'm telling you, if I watch Smile, the next time someone just like smiled at me, I would punch them in the mouth.
You're already kind of like that, though. If someone smiles at you, like, I don't know you. And you just kind of like, I don't know what that good person smiled at me. I'm just like ruins your day.
That's true.
This is true.
Don't.
Never talk to him in the bathroom either.
Yeah. Well, why would you talk to anyone in the bathroom?
You're just like rolling and you're like, oh, what's up, dude? And you're just like, did you even talk to me? Like, and you won't even say it until after the bathroom. And you're just like, what did you talk to me in the bathroom?
That's because you don't talk to someone with their friggin' dick out, bro.
Why not? I mean, it's personal. It's friendship. It shows true friendship. Anyway, so Smile's coming out in theaters this weekend. Also coming out in theaters this weekend from director Olivia Wilde. Don't Worry, Darling. This movie has been in and out of the news quite a bit. With reports of Shia LaBeouf like getting fired from the movie, him declining this, and Hardy says Jake is not the violent type.
That's
you
true.
Don't know Jake.
No, come on, bro. You know that I'm not.
He's not the violent type on the drive-in speaker box, but he's a door guy, and he's like, yo, I'm just getting a fight, dog. I've been in so many fights, I have so many concussions.
That's not true. That's not how it is. I got asked to do that kind of job because I don't get into scraps.
But somehow you've miraculously been in more scraps than 3 of my lifetimes.
Yeah, half of those have been caused by you, and I was fighting.
That's
for
not
you.
even true. I've never witnessed you get in a scrap.
I remember a certain Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue where you walked by people and you're like, "That's stupid. You look dumb. You're an idiot. Look at this dumb ass."
But you didn't have to scrap anybody. Somebody was just like, "Who's that asshole?" And you're just like, "He's just an idiot, sir." Yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, Olivia Wilde's new movie starring Black Widow's little sister and Mr. Pop.
Yes, and Olivia Wilde and Chris Pine. So, this movie, a lot of people were talking about it. Early reviews, not coming up very well. Let's see.
He just told the story where he beat up a theater.
Yeah.
Listen, man. You present Princess Bride correctly because it was my chance to watch it in the theater, and I was so mad.
He was very mad. Anyway,
I'm the reason people were there.
It's true. We did rally a posse.
They extended it to 2 theaters because of the people that I brought to the friggin' theater.
And they put you in the bad one.
They put me in the bad one.
No one puts Jake in the bad one.
Yeah.
But Don't Worry, Darling, coming out in theaters. I want to check this out mainly because I want to see what all the hubbub's about. I want to, I don't like going off review scores. That's one of the reasons we don't give scores on this show because, my opinion's different from Jake's opinion and our opinions are different from your opinions. And that's what we want to encourage Discord. We want to encourage thoughtful discussion and analysis of these movies. Even, we cut up a lot, but it's to encourage you guys to think about movies more than it's got a 48 on Metascore. What does that even mean? So anyway, that movie's coming out this weekend as well. Mode MS7 Man asked, did you make fun of someone with Cobra pipes on their Honda VTX?
No.
I probably just made fun of everything.
Yeah, he did. The specific incident was after he told about 10 people they were dumb to their faces.
Because these are people wearing like rebel flags and lawyers wearing rebel flags and big
that wasn't it at all.
I'm a biker for this weekend. And I was also drunk.
Yeah.
So
the specific incident that I'm thinking of is there was a guy who had a top hat on, and you talked about how
he had a top hat on.
Stupid his hat was, and he got very upset. You kept walking. I turned around. So there's like a 2-foot difference.
So you engaged.
I protected. All I did was...
What's a guy in a top hat going to do? Pull a bouquet of flowers out of it and give it to me?
Hey, what the hell?
Yeah, and you were literally...
Put up your dukes, sir. We're going to have fisticuffs in the street.
You're like literally doing this, and I turned around, and he goes, I don't want none of that.
Well, yeah, because he was getting probably ready to pull a bouquet or a dove or an ever-ending like chain of scarves out of his top hat. Like, that's a
Like,
top hat.
you know
Biker. Wouldn't get out of here.
what's the dude, the pickup artist guy, Magic or whatever?
What? Chris Angel?
No. Like his name's like
Oh,
Magic.
the guy that wears like
He has the top.
Yeah,
hat.
he wears like the Jamiroquai hats, and he throws negs or whatever.
Yeah. This guy was kind of like that. He kind of looked like that.
So of course, I'd probably
Like,
throw a joke at that person.
it was
sober.
like that, but leather instead of the fuzz and the boa.
Okay, Mode 7 says we need a top hat man emoji. I'll work on that next week. I'll make a top hat man emoji. So when we're making fun of somebody, we'll just throw the top hat out there, and it'll be our little secret. So and you gotta sub on Twitch to get access to our emojis. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, those are the movies that are coming out this
Foreign
weekend.
films and up and comers.
Yeah, where's Vince with those elite emojis?
Harry Styles, up and comer. There it is.
There it is. All right. Well, boom. Dang. Vince
look
dropping
at
all
all
of
of
them.
those.
Look at them. All right. Well, if you want to know what we're
Wii
talking
one
about,
is so good.
again, check us out on our Twitch, our YouTube, or our Facebook Live. You can tune in if you're, again, listening to the audio only and getting very confused. But let's review some movies. We've got a lot to talk about, just a veritable truckload. And
It's all you. You got my Cyberpunk.
You're
out of the way.
familiar with Agatha Christie, are you not? You're familiar with Fletch, are you not? You can,
yeah.
You can.
I wanted to watch Confess Fletch, but the only way to watch it legally is to spend $20 or buy it for $25, and I don't even know if it's good. I can go buy both original Fletches for under $20.
Well, and I guess we'll just go ahead and start with the Fletches. The original Fletches are fun movies. Like, Fletch, what a lot of people don't know about Fletch, and the crazy thing is I didn't know that this Fletch remake was even really happening. It just kind of scooted under the radar for me. It's kind of a strange series for someone to go like, you know what? Let's pick this back up again. And
They've been trying to for so long.
It's weird because the novels are mystery novels from, I think the first one was in 1974. Gregory MacDonald wrote these, and Fletch is, if you're not familiar with the character, he is an investigative journalist who kind of solves crimes, and he's kind of very smart ass, one step ahead, but kind of a ding dong at the same time, always impersonating people. He's kind of the antithesis to Jack Reacher, I guess. Jack Reacher just rolls into town and like solves mystery by just being macho and Jack Reacher, and he's like, I'm Jack Reacher. But Fletch is just like, well, I'm not going to get in a fight, but I'm going to say my name's something else, and I've got some jokes, but I'm also here in town to solve these crimes. And there was 2 films that Chevy Chase led, Fletch, which was in 1985, and then Fletch Lives, which came out in 1989, was the sequel, and these were both fairly successful comedies. And then this one, 2022, just sort of came out of nowhere, which why we need to rehash Fletch, but starring John Hamm as the titular Fletch. And overall, this movie lacked a handful of things for me. We're going to talk about that list first. David asks on Facebook if we talked about Halloween Ends yet. Not yet, because it's not out yet, but we have talked about it coming. Vince says there's so much conversation on social media that there was no advertising. There was absolutely no advertising about this movie. But
I honestly didn't know it was out until
Vince said something
in our Discord. Because he had it in the theater where he lives.
Yeah, it was only in, I looked it up and I took a note. It was in 516 theaters nationwide this past weekend. So it didn't make a lot of money. But, this caught me off guard. And the one big thing that this movie, I think, is hurt by is the fact that the first Fletch movie was so impactful. And this is something that Jake and I were talking about off camera is, when you create a movie based on source material that not a lot of people are familiar with, and their first sort of, falling in love with a character is because of a particular actor. You take Daniel Radcliffe's Harry Potter, you take, Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones, and these people, these actors become those characters. And when we think of those characters, we think of those actors and those nuances that those actors bring to that role. And the first time that you saw that character, that's what gets into your head.
Well, even more so for this, because the original author of the novels, when he sold his rights for the movies, retained the right to be the one to choose who the actor that played Fletch was. And he's the one that said yes to Chevy Chase. He goes, that's who I want to be Fletch. That's Fletch.
And he died in 2008, so it's not like he could pick the new one. And so anyway, one of the biggest complaints I have about the movie is there's no Harold Faltermeyer soundtrack. Like, when I'm thinking Fletch, I'm thinking like solving mysteries. I'm thinking Harold Faltermeyer, a synth background. I'm looking at clues. It's Fletch. I'm there. I'm solving a crime, and I'm somewhere where I shouldn't be. And Harold Faltermeyer knows how to make it sound. There was none of that. The score was boring.
It's like the new Top Gun.
Yeah, the score just is a part of Fletch. The other thing that kind of drove me nuts is John Hamm, while visually bringing his own thing to the character, which I think was probably a little more accurate to the books from what I have gathered, tried to do Chevy Chase isms, which Chevy Chase very much brought some Chevy Chase into Fletch. His brand of sort of deadpan, absurdist physical comedy that he would bring to this character made Fletch really, a lot more engaging and lovable on screen. And when John Hamm's not only trying to play Fletch but also trying to play Chevy Chase's Fletch, I think it kind of got a little murked up because it's hard enough to separate the two.
Well, because who else can do like the big tooth aerospace, like whatever mechanic guy?
Yeah, and John Hamm did no costumes. He just said he was on the phone a lot, just doing different names.
Oh, really?
So there was no disguises or anything like that. And the opening scene, there's he's trying to feed the fish and he accidentally opens all of it, and then there's fish food everywhere, and he's like, oops, and that's a very Chevy Chase moment, but it never. In a Chevy Chase scene, it would have one of the fish dying would have been more impactful and summarized a joke, and it would have been a physical bit and funny. John Hamm has just kind of made his character seem like an imbecile, and John Hamm, I think, Chevy Chase was able to ride this sort of like. He was considered a very handsome, somewhat heartthrob at the time, but very much a comedian. And John Hamm is like kind of retroactively trying to be a comedian, because at first he was just like this handsome on-screen dude, got famous with Mad Men, and now he's trying to do this comedy stuff because he's a funny dude, but that's just not immediately what you think about when you see John Hamm. And then there's some supporting cast with, John Slattery's character, I think, was the best one, his colleague from a different his old newspaper. But then you got Kyle MacLachlan, who he's pretty fun, but he's kind of wasted in this. And Marcia Gay Harden, who I think was a little too over the top cheesy for the movie that didn't fit that over the top cheesy tone. And the bumbling cops I thought were a little much, but it was fun to see Robert Picardo as a cameo at the very end.
Robert Picardo's in this movie?
He is, just for like 5 minutes, just at the very end. Vince said he counted one half chuckle, wanted way more comedy in a comedy, but the Chevy is not in the book. This was more to the book, yes. But that's where I think that this movie kind of messes up, is because we like the Chevy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing about movies with once they're set, regardless of what their source is, when it's put to film and people like that version of the film, they don't care about if it's like the books. Like Marvel comic movies, nothing like the comic books, but if they were to ever be like the comics, people are like, I don't like this. The Conan is the first thing that comes to mind, because I really like the Jason Momoa Conan movie. I really like that movie because I've read Robert E. Howard's books. I know what Conan's supposed to be like. I like the world of Conan, But most people go, it's not Arnold.
It's
I don't
not
care
Arnold.
about it.
Or-
Because Arnold is Conan for the majority of all people.
And I think, Robert Englund's portrayal of Freddy Krueger, which he is Freddy Krueger, and then in 2010 they tried to do it again with Jackie Earle Haley, and it's like, well, that's not Freddy Krueger,
Yeah, but there's not like a book where you can be like, well, he's more like the book.
But there was also like 10 movies before,
true.
so
I
that's
mean,
enough
but-
source material.
Yeah, Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. You can't replace Robert Englund.
Vince said Kevin Smith was trying to direct this for a while with
Yeah.
Jason Lee. That
Fletch won.
Well, and
WON because it was going to be a prequel.
and Kevin Smith would have knocked this out of the park.
No.
Well, he would have dug Harold Faltermeyer out of the grave to do this like he tried with Cop Out. Like he's been, Cop Out was probably his wanting to do this but not being able to, and got a Harold Faltermeyer soundtrack, tried to get, a buddy cop movie. I think that Kevin Smith would have done a good job with a Fletch. And I like Jason Lee, too. I think that would have been a good one. But confess...
Jason Lee would be a good Fletch.
I think he would be a good Fletch.
I mean, watch Mallrats. Jason Lee would be a great Fletch.
But Confess Fletch, it's out on VOD and very limited release. It's a comedy. It's a caper. I mean, I wouldn't go see it at the theater. I didn't hate watching it on TV. Yeah, it's Fletch. I mean, I like the character, but it just felt a little awkward.
Tyler on YouTube said Patrick Warburton as Fletch
would have been pretty great.
Yeah.
I think he's getting a little old though for this, but I love Patrick Warburton. Yeah, we used to be instant message buddies back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Did you just message him about how much Tick was the coolest
yes.
all the time?
Yeah. And but because I really liked him on Seinfeld as Putty. And
Elaine's
yeah,
dumbass boyfriend.
Yeah, he was pretty awesome. Mode 7 Man asked, not pants worthy. I mean, no. I hate saying that because I do like the character Fletch, and I do love the Fletch other two Fletch movies. But
Vince's review right now in one sentence is my favorite thing. Yeah, I didn't like it, but by the end I thought it's fine.
yeah, 100% same. Yeah. So that one is in theaters right now. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about.
Before we move away from characters and books and stuff, Tyler said to him, Daniel Craig was more book description Bond, but everyone hated it because they say it's not Connery. I mean, that's another thing. Bond exists in the books in a certain way, but Sean Connery is Bond in cinema. Roger Moore is number 2. You can argue about who follows that. It's kind of whatever at that point. But Connery is Bond in the book, in the movies for sure. And regardless of how he's portrayed in the books, Sean Connery will always and forever be James Bond because he was the first Bond, and he's the one that set the tone and the character, and he's the one that made the return after having been gone for a movie or two. Like, he is James Bond. So yeah, I mean, things like that. It's hard for someone like John Hamm to come in and take in the role of Fletch, who was very much a Chevy Chase role.
Yes.
And try and portray that character again when you know who Fletch is supposed to be, having watched Fletch and Fletch Lives, for sure. Yeah.
Well, all right, moving on because I don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna have to cram these two in. I'm gonna speed through God's Country. God's Country, of course, the new film from director Julian Higgins, starring Thandwi Newton and not a whole lot of other people. I don't like these names.
Remember we talked about this.
I know.
last
I'm
week?
calling her Thandwi because it's Thandiwe. I don't like whatever. It's Thandwi to me. Like I hate complicated names because I'm a teleprompter reader. I dry read really fast. I don't have time to translate umlauts and Sydney's spelled with like YKTH silence. Hate that shit. I know it makes me sound stupid, but I'm owning it. I'm leaning into it. But anyway, she's in this movie. I'm just gonna call her the Black Lady from Westworld.
Don't do that.
That's. Guy's gonna constantly correct my pronunciations. My name is Bleh, not Bo. Anyway, this movie is based on a now I can't even think of what I was gonna say. A short story. It's based off a short story which I checked out. It's very short. I wanted to see what the source material was. Incredibly short story written by James Lee Burke, who I think is still alive. Very old guy. He wrote this in 2007, and it was called Winter Light. Now, this was adapted into a short film, and this is like a very longer version of said short film that got some praise in Sundance, and they pretty much copy and paste a lot of the dialogue from the short story, which there's not a lot of it, and really expand upon it. And the story goes, in the short story, it's this retired professor who lives up in the mountain. He's divorced. He's just kind of a reclusive hermit, and these two kind of hunter guys keep trespassing to get to some hunting land. And he's like, hey, this is private property. Don't get on my land. And there's the series of sort of escalating microaggressions, and it never really resolves itself. Like the short story just ends where he takes this doe from the back of their truck that they had killed at this bar, and then brings it back to bury it on his property because he's kind of anti-hunting and all this kind of stuff. And then the guys just show up at his property and are like, well, we're here now. And then it kind of ends begging the question of what would happen with this confrontation of these two things that are just kind of running full steam ahead at each other. But the movie, it sort of goes bananas on how many social issues it wants to tackle. So, of course, you've got the lead character who is a black woman who is single, living in a cabin in the woods in Montana, but she's also a retired police officer from New Orleans, so they throw in the whole Katrina thing, and her mom had just died, so now she's grieving, and she is a professor somehow at this university as well, but she's not retired from the teaching job, but then throws in sort of a inclusivity scandal at the university on hiring practices, but then also adds another layer of one of the sort of antagonists that you don't really realize till the end has this like sort of illicit situation with a TA, which was kind of in the book, but it kind of grows on it. And as Night Alice said, that's a lot of hats, and it is, because it kind of starts getting lost in what message it's trying to tell, because really the story could be anybody, and I think that was what made it interesting. Is it's really a story about people's boundaries and how far you can push somebody until they snap. Movies like Blue Ruin, I thought, were a little bit more of a cool, more impactful, slow burn revenge than, say, this movie. But, the performances in this, like Newton's performance was pretty incredible. It's kind of a one-woman show, to be honest. Just was really intriguing and fun to watch. And it's kind of haunting and slow, and then ends with a bang, and you're just kind of left with unpacking all of this stuff, and you're wondering what the message is. And I don't think this is a really strong theater movie. I'd say it's a good movie to watch when it gets cold, because it takes place in the winter in Montana, and it draws in a lot of these social issues without heavy-handing them, which, despite being a lot of very poignant social topics, it doesn't make them so obvious. Like, yes, she's a black woman and these rednecks are on her property, but they're not like, hey there, black lady, won't you come over here? And they're not. It's not like that. It's more of, these are people and they are disagreeing, and it's more about the privacy and just like knowing where your boundaries lie. And it's, I don't know, it makes you think, but by the end of it, you're just like, well, okay, it's fine, as Vince said. Yeah. So I don't know. I wasn't as blown away by it in terms of narrative storytelling, because the short story just didn't have a lot to work with. I mean, it was a pretty well written short story, but I just think that I don't know, was kind of reaching. So great performances, though. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff from Newton in the future, and you can check it out. It was in theaters, not necessarily nationwide. I think it was in 785 theaters this past weekend. So it didn't get a lot of view, but I mean, it's an IFC movie, so what are you gonna do? Okay. Last but not least, See How They Run, the movie I like the most. I get to talk about the least, which that's sometimes how the show goes. See How They Run, directed by Tom George. It is, of course, starring another person's name who I hate saying, and Sam Rockwell. This is a whodunit. This is a 1950s era Agatha Christie whodunit. Set in the West End of 1950s London around the actual Agatha Christie play Mousetrap. And there is a pretty fun cameo of Agatha Christie. I won't spoil it in case you want to go see it. But it is a classic, Clue. You've got all this colorful ensemble cast of characters. David Oyelowo was pretty hilarious in this movie, and he's not really known for doing hilarious comedic roles, but Adrian Brody is in there doing Adrian Brody stuff. Sam Rockwell, Miss Ronan.
Is that the name?
Yeah, I hate her name too.
Saoirse.
It's Swarcy. Are you Gaelic? I'm not. So I actually got in trouble getting my whiskey certification because they're like, all these Scottish dudes are like, no, it's pronounced crick, and I was like, well, it's spelled goat. Why don't you just say goat? And they go, it's pronounced Greek. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So yeah, that's what happens because I'm a dumbass white American. So yeah, so yeah, whatever, dude. You didn't have to bring attention to it, but here we go.
You did. You
I said Miss Ronan.
Yeah, because
you're like, what? You're
like, another name I hate trying to say.
Well, yeah, I just want to get in front of it and
Saoirse.
Saoirse. Where's that O?
It's Irish.
Well, I'm not Irish. Okay? So there we go.
I don't know what that was.
Channel points reward. Have me pronounce something. I hate that idea.
Yeah, I love that idea.
We'll have Jake watch scary movies and then I pronounce things. How about that idea?
I don't want to do that.
All right then. All right.
Like what kind of scary movies? Like Gremlins? I'll watch Gremlins.
No, like
Critters?
Saw.
I don't want to watch Saw. I don't want to see.
Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Which one?
The first one, not the second one. You don't get to see the chainsaw sword fight.
The original?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll watch that one.
Okay. Bone Tomahawk. There's a good one. Anyway, back to this movie. This movie is telegraphed from start to finish, and it's a movie about a play, and it's like a play. It kind of reminds me of Noises Off, if you guys are familiar with that, which is a play about a production of a play, and then there was a movie about a play and a production of a play, and it's very meta. There's a lot of dry humor, a lot of quick humor. This movie is a comedy, but not in the sense. I think this is a comedy your grandparents are gonna love. Like there was some older folks in the theater with me that just were just knee slapping, and not necessarily a guffaw from me. There was a lot of moments that I was really enjoying it and chortling, but not necessarily knee slapping. What I gotta measure my laughters.
Yeah, I get
on the laughter scale.
There's something about actors playing actors that's always weird.
Well, and they lean into it nicely in this movie without having the like dum 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 like the big band era, which the Hollywood, that old Hollywood era really lends itself to. This movie was really more about just the characters and how it all ends up into a very it's very Agatha Christie. It is just straight from the pages, and it's kind of a guilty pleasure, just like what was the Nile and the Orient Express that both came out and were fun. I mean, there is
Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile.
Yeah, there is something very, very satisfying about it's like a comfort film, it's innocent even though it's about murder, most foul, and it reminded me of Clue in a lot of ways. But it wrapped itself up in a way that I, again, don't want to spoil the ending, because when you see it coming, it becomes a part of the comedy and is really enjoyable. So I was happy I got to see this in the theater, because it's not really a movie that you see in the theater a lot, and you can bring anybody into this movie. It's despite having murder, it's fun for the whole family. So it's PG-13. So bring the kids. Watch a guy get hit in the face with a typewriter and die, which is Adrian Brody. He's the guy that dies. So Tyler says Glass Onion trailer looks great. Again, another who, like, what's with all these whodunits?
Yeah,
I'm
talking
here for
about
it.
theaters. You don't have to watch it in the theater. Glass Onion was revealed to be what, Netflix or Hulu?
Yep.
One of the two, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
McLean says a Hail Caesar kind of film. Yes. Yeah. Maybe not quite as self-aware as Hail Caesar, but yes, in that vein. Vince says bringing back the Misery typewriter death. Yeah, just with no 2x4s between the ankles. So anyway, see how they run in theaters right now. It is, I want to say, in somewhat wide release. It is in it's in medium wide release. It's only in 2,400 theaters out of almost 5,000. So about half. But it is probably playing at a theater near you if you live in any metro area. So, okay, well, those are the 3 films that we should talk about. I can't believe we got through them all. We only have a couple of minutes left in the show before big yawns over here. We got to get Jake, woke him up. Big yawns. Got to get this top 10 box office roundup.
There's something about these lights, man. It's a very Garfield in the sunlight type thing.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like so many studio lights in here. Our electric bill just for today is rowdy. But we're going to give you the box office roundup for September 16th through 18th, 2022. We always give you domestic numbers for those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, and that is because that is what movies are greenlit from. So we're going to give you the top 10 movies in America as they were this past weekend. Take it away, Jake.
All right, number 10, a movie I've never heard of, Moon Age Daydream.
That's the David Bowie.
Really? I forgot it has the weird subtitle thing, and it wasn't available in any of our local theaters because it turns out it's only in 170 theaters in the country. I tried to find it. It wasn't out. I just thought of it as the David Bowie movie. But yeah, Moon Age Daydream, there we go. Now that we know, brought in $1.23 million in its opening week.
But its theater average was high.
Theater average 7,000. Wow, more than any other movie in the top 10, any other movie period. 72.36 screen average. So I do want to see it. I like David Bowie. I grew up on that kind of thing. Looking forward to it if we can get it. Number 9, staying at number 9, Minions: Rise of Gru in its 12th week. Brought in another $1.4 million, bringing this grand domestic total of $364 million.
Printing money like an evil villain would.
And then number 8, dropping from the number 5 spot in only its 4th week out. The Invitation brought in $1.7 million, bringing its domestic total to $21.5 million.
It was dropping fast. I mean,
it's a horror movie, so maybe it made its budget.
It's
hard to say because it's a Sony, and Sony goes big.
Well, I think it did okay overseas. No, it did not. Only $8 million overseas. So yeah, not looking so good. I thought it was. I think if that movie had opened in October, it would have done a lot better. Mainly because it's spooky, but it's a spooky film and it's a vampire film. Like a vampire film coming out in September is just kind of a bad idea.
Before we go too far, Nine Ashley said, do you guys ever do a special edition podcast or an extended one, interest in some extended or extra stuff like Q&A, circling back to questions? We really need to. It's been asked of us multiple times. We need to do that. It's
really about scheduling. Monday nights, we've both scheduled Monday nights for the past how many ever years. He works on Tuesdays, and Yeah. I mean, we could do some. We'll talk about it. We'll talk
once
about it.
once the Halloween season's over, so he's not as busy, we'll try and figure it out. Yeah, Vince, do make that super cut. That'd probably be really funny. I hate putting myself out there and being on film, but make it. Let's do it. Number 7, DC League of Super Pets in its 8th week of release brought in $2.1 million. Its domestic total 87.8, still hanging in there. Better than what you would have thought, but there's not a lot of movies coming out to kick it out of the way. Number 6, hanging in there in its 17th week, Top Gun Maverick, another $2.24 million, bringing in $709 million domestic, killing it, doing great. It's the most exciting movie in the theaters right now. Number 5, dropping from the 3rd spot, Bullet Train in its 7th week, brought in $2.5 million, bringing its domestic total to $96.5 million. Not bad.
Not bad.
Doing great. Better than what you'd expect for it to be. Everyone I know that has seen it has been like, yeah, it was really good. And everyone agrees all the characters are fleshed out. You get full characters. That's the fun part of the movie. Opening at number 4, movie you just reviewed, See How They Run, brought in $3 million, only in 2,400 theaters, which is the 3rd lowest in the top 10, under Moon Age Daydream and Minions. Minions that's been out forever. Moon Age Daydream, which is just getting its start.
Yep.
Niche thing. So not bad for them. Not bad.
Could be better, but we're going to have more movies coming and competing next week. It's going to be a very, very competitive week next weekend.
Yeah, and another thing that I haven't seen a lot of advertising about, despite the insane star power in the movie. Opening also, number 3, first week, $3.124 million for Pearl, the X prequel.
A lot of good reviews coming out about this as well. So, yeah, Stephen King, apparently a big fan of Ty West and other things like that. So, I meant to see that this weekend. I really wanted to go. I tried to squeeze it in this afternoon, just got so busy. But I definitely am going to try and talk about Pearl next week.
There you go. And then number 2, continuing the horror train here in its 2nd week, brought in $6.5 million, Barbarian,
which we talked about last week.
Yeah, you reviewed it last week. I got the special behind the scenes review of everything.
Spoiler
that goes down.
full.
Yeah, the spoiler review. It actually sounds like a lot of fun. $21.1 million take for its 2-week run. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad for a horror movie. That's the same amount of money that The Invitation's brought in.
And the director has already said, like, people are going, are we going to get a sequel? We'd love to see a sequel. And he's like, no, I'll make another horror movie that you'll love, but I don't want to do a sequel to this.
Perfect. Good. That's good. And then coming in number 1, opening in the top spot, The Woman King, the movie that had the most trailers and commercials made for it, brought in $19 million.
Yeah, it's a big one. I wonder if people thought that it was maybe Black Panther coming out, because the marketing on this, if you go and look at the trailers, like they cut the trailer to Woman King very close to part of one of the trailers. I mean, I sit in the theater and I watch gobs of trailers, and there was a cut of the Woman King trailer that was like starting to flow parallel to the Wakanda Forever trailers, and I kid you not, like the first 30 seconds you would think they're the same trailer, and you're like, oh wait, no, okay, here's Viola Davis, got it. And maybe kind of like, you know how Redbox, they'll do the, you know, when the Transformers movies come out, they got Transmorphers 4, and but yeah, you know, I've been reading some good reviews about Woman King. I want to see this one too.
Yeah, brought in all the dollars. So
there it is. There's your top 10, and that is our show. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Night Owl Elite, yes, we do want to get some more content for you guys. We'll make our college try, but in the meantime, you can always jump in the Discord, and that we can chit chat and share fun things on the go. And their link is in somewhere. It's in the chat. It's in our profiles on all of these social medias. But if you want to take us on the go and listen to this podcast wherever you want to go, you can get it wherever you download podcasts: Apple, iTunes, Google Music, Spotify. I don't know if we're approved on Pandora yet. Been working on that one. But we out there. We out there. So, yeah. Anyway, any parting words there, Jake?
Just Vince pointed out Fathom Events. Scream 2 is going to be in the theaters October 9th and 10th. So if you like that kind of thing, you want to watch scary movies in the theater, that's there. Join the Discord and party on, dudes.
All right. See you guys. We'll catch you next week.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.
Yeah. Woo. Sweaty. Sweaty balls.